Have you ever trusted someone so deeply that you would risk everything, your career, your freedom, your family, just to protect them? Most people would say yes, until it actually costs them something. Ava Callahan did more than say yes. She lived it. For her, loyalty wasn't just a value, it was her default setting. She believed in keeping promises, cleaning up messes, and standing by the people she loved, even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. But what happens when that loyalty becomes the weapon used to destroy you? In 2013, Ava walked into a police station and confessed to a crime she didn't commit, just to protect her best friend, Renata. The woman she'd known since grade school. The same woman who shared sleepovers, secrets, and even served as maid of honor at her wedding. Ava thought she could handle the consequences. She thought she could control the damage. After all, she wasn't the one who pulled the trigger. She wasn't even there. But the justice system doesn't always care about the difference between truth and confession. And while Ava sat behind bars, serving time she didn't deserve, Renata didn't just move on. She moved in, with Ava's husband. Today's story isn't about a crime of passion or a courtroom twist. It's about the quiet kind of betrayal, the one that unfolds over years, behind smiles and phone calls, in the softest tones and the warmest hugs. The kind that doesn't leave bruises on the body, but fractures the soul. Before we begin, I have to ask. Would you ever take the fall for someone you love? Have you ever done something that seemed noble, only to realize you were being used? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe if stories like this make you look twice at the people closest to you. Because Ava did everything right, and still lost everything. Ava Callahan was the kind of woman people called dependable. Not glamorous. Not magnetic. Just reliable. She paid her bills on time, never drank more than one glass of wine at dinner, and still sent handwritten thank you cards. In a world full of loud personalities and self-promotion, Ava blended into the background. She didn't mind. In fact, she preferred it. She grew up in a modest home in Spokane, Washington. Her father was a retired Air Force mechanic, her mother, a part-time librarian. They didn't have much, but they had rules, routines, and respect. Ava learned early that being good meant making life easier for others. She internalized that lesson like gospel. Then came Renata. They met in the 3rd grade. Ava was the shy new girl with iron jeans and a strawberry shortcake lunchbox. Renata was already a queen bee in training, charismatic, wild-eyed, with a spark that could light a house on fire. She had the kind of charm that didn't ask for attention, it demanded it. For reasons Ava never fully understood, Renata picked her. She dragged her into games, whispered secrets at recess, and made Ava feel chosen. Special. It was intoxicating. The roles formed quickly, Renata was the fire, Ava the anchor. Renata created chaos. Ava cleaned it up. Through middle school and high school, their dynamic stayed the same. Renata dated bad boys, skipped classes, and made dramatic exits. Ava took notes for her, helped her study, and lied to teachers when Renata didn't show up. But Ava didn't resent it. She thought it was loyalty. She thought it was love, even if not romantic. By college, they were inseparable. They both attended Washington State University, but their paths diverged. Ava studied education. Renata bounced from major to major, finally landing in communications. She was magnetic in class but erratic, turning in dazzling papers one week, ghosting for days the next. When she failed a course and risked losing her scholarship, Ava stayed up for 72 hours rewriting Renata's final project. Renata got an A, Ava got mono. A few people in their orbit tried to warn Ava. Renata uses people, one ex-friend muttered at a party. She's not your responsibility, a college advisor told her quietly. But Ava brushed it all off. Renata had a tough childhood, an alcoholic mother, a revolving door of stepfathers, and nights spent sleeping in her car. Ava saw herself not just as a friend, but as a kind of savior. She would be the constant in Renata's storm. After college, their lives took different turns. Ava became a second-grade teacher. She met Thomas Callahan at a church barbecue, an accountant with a dry sense of humor and a surprising love of 80s hair metal. He wasn't exciting, but he was kind, stable, and dependable. Within a year, they were married. Renata, on the other hand, spiraled. She bounced between jobs. Bartender, real estate assistant, podcast editor. She dated older men, got evicted twice, and called Ava crying more times than Ava could count. And every time, Ava was there. She loaned money she couldn't afford to lose. Let Renata crash on her couch for just a few nights that turned into months. When Ava and Thomas finally bought their first home, they gave Renata the guest room, indefinitely. It wasn't ideal, but Ava felt useful. Needed. Like maybe she was saving Renata after all. Then came the man who changed everything. His name was Cole Maddox. He was 37, a nightclub owner with a criminal record sealed just tight enough to seem mysterious rather than dangerous. He drove a silver Audi, wore expensive cologne, and carried himself like a man who expected women to say yes. Renata met him at a VIP table she wasn't supposed to be near. He liked her edge. She liked his wallet. Within weeks, they were inseparable. Expensive dinners. Last-minute trips to Miami. Jewelry she couldn't pronounce. Ava worried, but Renata laughed it off. "I'm finally getting what I deserve," she said. "You should try it sometime, Ava." It was the first time Ava felt something shift. A subtle contempt in Renata's tone. Like Ava's quiet life wasn't just boring, it was pitiful. And then came the ask. Renata came home one night with tears in her eyes and a trembling voice. She said she'd made a mistake. That Cole had gotten involved with some bad people, and something had gone wrong, a man had been shot. Not by her, she insisted. But she had been in the wrong place at the wrong time. She begged Ava to help her. Not legally. Not by calling a lawyer. But by saying she was the one who had driven the getaway car. Just temporarily, Renata claimed. Just until Cole's guys stopped sniffing around. If someone took the heat for a while, the Real killers would disappear, and Ava's clean record and white girl schoolteacher vibe would mean minimal charges. It was insane. Absurd. Criminal. And Ava said yes. Thomas, her husband, was furious. He told her if she went through with it, he couldn't stand by her. But Ava saw Renata sobbing on the floor, clutching a photo of them from middle school, whispering, "You're all I have, Ava, please." So Ava did what she always did. She made the sacrifice. She went to the police, spinning a barely believable story that she had been the getaway driver in a botched robbery Cole had orchestrated. She gave just enough detail to make it plausible. The police were skeptical, but when the gun used in the shooting was found in a storage unit Ava had unknowingly paid for under her name months earlier, things escalated. Fast. She was arrested, charged, and refused to name Renata or Cole. Even after her public defender warned her that the plea deal might vanish if she didn't start cooperating. She held firm. Loyalty, after all, was her identity. But the real punch to the gut came 2 months into her sentence. A prison guard slipped Ava a newspaper clipping, an engagement announcement. Not Cole. Thomas. And Renata. The photo was like a stab wound, Thomas smiling awkwardly, Renata glowing in a white lace dress, her hand proudly displaying a modest but unmistakable ring. The article mentioned a whirlwind romance sparked by mutual grief over a friend's incarceration. Mutual grief. Ava sat in her 6x8 cell and stared at the yellowing page until her eyes burned. She tried to cry, but the tears wouldn't come. All she could feel was, hollowed out. Because everything she thought she knew, about friendship, about love, about her own goodness, had been twisted into a lie. A beautifully constructed, slowly built, intimate betrayal. It was just after midnight on a cold January Friday when a call came into Spokane Police Dispatch. A man had been shot, twice. Once in the abdomen, once in the chest. The caller, a gas station clerk, said the victim had stumbled into the store, blood soaking through his shirt, before collapsing near the refrigerated drinks. His name was Marcus Brody. 35. Known to police but not a high-profile criminal. Mostly low-level drug charges, petty theft, a couple of assault allegations that never stuck. But that night, he became something else, the victim at the center of a case that would fracture a community. He was barely conscious when medics arrived. His final words, mumbled and barely audible, were allegedly, "They left me. She left me." He was dead before he reached the hospital. Detectives were called to the scene immediately. Robbery was considered the motive. The man's wallet and phone were missing, but there were strange inconsistencies. His car, a dented black Honda, had been found still running behind the gas station, 1 block over. There were no tire tracks suggesting a high-speed getaway. And security cameras showed only a blur, a silver car speeding away around 11:40 p.m., no plates visible, windows tinted too dark to ID the driver. But something didn't sit right with Detective Natalie Maurer, the lead investigator. There was no struggle. No bruises on Marcus's knuckles. No defensive wounds. The wounds were clean, close range. This wasn't a mugging. It was an execution. 2 days later, they found the weapon, ditched in a public trash can 6 blocks away. A .38 snub-nosed revolver with 2 casings still in the cylinder. And fingerprints. One print came back quickly, Ava Callahan. She was arrested at 4:15 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon at the elementary school where she worked. Witnesses said she was calm, almost dazed. One of her second-grade students reportedly asked her, "Are you going to jail?" She just smiled and said, "No, honey. I'll be back before recess." She never came back. At first, no one could believe it. Ava Callahan. The teacher who stayed late grading papers. The woman who organized the annual toy drive and made muffins from scratch for the staff lounge. But the evidence was stacked higher than most people knew. Detectives found receipts showing Ava had rented a storage unit 6 months earlier, on the outskirts of town. The unit, dusty and unused except for one item, a duffel bag containing a hoodie with a fresh bloodstain, Marcus Brody's wallet, and a burner phone wiped of contacts. The hoodie was Ava's size. The blood was Marcus's. The second piece of evidence was the gun, registered to no one, untraceable, but with a clean, single fingerprint on the trigger. Ava's. The defense would later argue it was planted. But by then, the media had a nickname for her, the killer teacher. Ava's first interview with Detective Maurer lasted 4 hours. It never aired, but court documents revealed the conversation's unsettling rhythm. Maurer asked Ava if she'd ever met Marcus Brody. No, Ava said flatly. She was shown a photo of him. I don't know him, she repeated, voice trembling slightly. Then Maurer dropped the bomb, they had her fingerprint on the murder weapon. Her reaction was eerie, not shocked, not outraged. Just, sad. Was anyone else with you? Maurer asked. Ava paused. I don't know what you're talking about. Maurer leaned in. Was Renata involved? That was the only time Ava raised her voice. Leave her out of this. Renata. The name finally surfaced in the investigation, and behind the scenes, investigators turned their focus to her. It took 1 week for detectives to shift their attention to Renata Miles. On paper, Renata had no criminal record. But she had ties to Cole Maddox, who did. The nightclub owner had connections to local gangs, several flagged financial transactions, and was known to launder money through VIP bottle service and offshore crypto wallets. Renata had recently left her bartending job and was, according to social media, rebranding herself as a lifestyle consultant. A look at her bank records showed deposits of $8,000, $12,000, and $15,000 over a 3-month period, all in cash. She said it was consulting money. The IRS wasn't so sure. And then there was the motive. Marcus Brody, it turned out, had worked security at Cole Maddox's nightclub. 2 former employees came forward saying Brody had been about to go to the cops over some bad business involving drug distribution through VIP clients. Renata had been seen arguing with him outside the club days before the murder. The working theory, Marcus was going to expose Cole. Renata, desperate to protect her new lifestyle, or perhaps acting on Cole's orders, set him up. Ava, the loyal friend, took the fall. Once the story broke, the media frenzy hit like a hurricane. A beloved elementary school teacher charged with murder. Her childhood best friend secretly engaged to her husband. A nightclub empire, guns, drugs, betrayal. It was clickbait heaven. Talk shows dissected Ava's psychology. Twitter flooded with hashtags, #FreeAva, #Renata the Snake, #KillerTeacher. True crime forums exploded. Half the internet painted Ava as a tragic martyr, the other half saw her as a cold-blooded killer hiding behind a soft-spoken face. Parents at Ava's school were divided. Some swore she could never do this. Others demanded her firing. The school district suspended her pending trial. Meanwhile, Renata and Thomas moved in together and posted about it. Instagram photos showed them holding hands at brunch, hiking together, cuddling with a golden retriever they named Marble. The comments were filled with fire emojis and hate. One read, "You're sleeping in the bed of the woman who took the bullet meant for you." 2 months into the investigation, a break came from an unlikely source. A woman named Trina Glass. Mid-30s. Former bartender. She claimed she had worked briefly at Cole Maddox's nightclub and had been friendly with Renata. In exchange for immunity on an unrelated possession charge, Trina told detectives that Renata had confessed to her one night. Drunk and panicked, that Marcus knew too much and that someone had to shut him up. More shockingly, Trina said Renata boasted that Ava would never talk. She'd rather rot than betray me. It wasn't a smoking gun. But it was fire. Detectives re-interviewed Ava. They asked her about the burner phone. She denied ever seeing it. They asked her about the hoodie. She said it looked familiar. They asked again, did Renata kill Marcus? Ava hesitated. And said, I don't know anymore. It was during her 3rd month in county jail, after Renata posted a Valentine's Day photo with Thomas and captioned it "Found my forever," that Ava broke. Not publicly. Not in court. But to her cellmate. Court records later revealed that Ava, in tears one night, confessed to a woman named Patrice Helms. She said Renata called her the night of the murder, frantic, screaming. Ava didn't know what had happened, only that Renata begged her to get rid of something. She didn't ask questions. She took the bag. She wiped the gun. She dumped it. I just thought I was helping her, Ava allegedly said. I didn't know someone was dead. Patrice turned state's witness. Now prosecutors had a new theory. Ava hadn't committed the murder. But she'd aided in the cover-up. And suddenly, Renata Miles wasn't just a manipulative ex-friend. She was a suspect. It was just after sunrise on a brisk April morning when police made their move. Renata Miles, once the picture of modern elegance and the face of a rising lifestyle brand, was arrested in her luxury Spokane apartment. She was still in her robe when officers arrived. The arrest, though quietly executed, exploded across the internet within hours. News helicopters hovered overhead as she was led to a waiting cruiser. Her once pristine image was reduced to a mugshot with mascara streaks and stunned eyes, a woman caught in a fall from grace no one had anticipated. The charges were staggering. Second-degree murder. Conspiracy to commit murder. Obstruction of justice. Tampering with evidence. The same Renata who'd once hosted wellness retreats and peddled detox teas now stood accused of orchestrating a calculated and callous killing. Prosecutors claimed that Renata had done far more than cover up a crime. They alleged she was the architect of it all, the hidden hand behind the scenes, manipulating everyone around her like chess pieces. Most notably, they said, she'd used her closest confidant, Ava Callahan, as her personal shield. At a packed press conference, prosecutor Eli Jennings didn't mince words. He called Ava a tragic casualty of loyalty and love. The evidence, he said, pointed not only to betrayal, but to premeditation. The district attorney's office even confirmed it was in talks to reduce Ava's charges, a signal that shocked the public and sent the media into a frenzy. Ava Callahan, after 3 harrowing months behind bars, was granted bail. Her bond was reduced from $1.5 million to $250,000. Her parents posted it the next morning. Ava emerged from jail not to relief, but to chaos. Her reputation had been shredded. Her face was still on tabloids labeling her a killer. Her name still echoed in talk shows and social media debates. But now, the tide had begun to turn. In the public eye, Ava was no longer just the accused. She was a woman who had been misled, manipulated, and used. As Renata sat behind bars awaiting trial, her defense team sprang into motion. She hired Wallace Kerr, a hard-hitting defense attorney with a reputation for turning high-profile cases on their heads. His approach was clear from the beginning: shift the blame back to Ava. According to Kerr, Ava had the motive, the means, and the opportunity. She had the gun. She destroyed evidence. She was unstable and scorned. And above all, she had confessed, even if only to a cellmate. But the prosecution wasn't backing down. They brought in that very cellmate, Patrice Helms, who testified that Ava had confessed to cleaning up a murder she didn't commit. The defense tried to paint Patrice as an opportunist with a criminal record and something to gain. The judge didn't buy it. Her testimony stood. Kindly hit subscribe, like this video, and share it with others who love a good mystery. Your support helps us keep these stories alive. As the trial date approached, prosecutors offered Ava immunity, complete protection from further charges, in exchange for testifying directly against Renata. But in a decision that stunned even her own legal team, Ava refused. She agreed to testify, yes, but not under a deal. She said she wanted the truth to speak for itself. She wouldn't trade one kind of imprisonment for another. The courtroom doors opened on September 8th. The trial of Renata Miles began under a storm of cameras and commentary. The gallery was packed. Every moment was documented, dissected, and discussed online. The prosecution's case painted Renata as a master manipulator. They said she had long-standing knowledge of a criminal enterprise Marcus Brody had discovered, and that she was willing to kill to keep that secret buried. Marcus, they argued, was lured into a meeting he never left alive. Ava, deeply devoted and in the dark, was called in after the fact to dispose of the body and clean the crime scene. The most damning evidence came not in the form of blood or fingerprints, but in words. Dozens of text messages were retrieved between Renata and Ava. In them, Renata played puppet master, dangling emotional pleas and manipulative threats like bait. Phrases like, "You're the only one I trust," and "Don't leave me now, not when I need you most," were read aloud in court. They hit harder than any forensic analysis ever could. But Wallace Kerr was relentless. His cross-examinations were surgical. He painted Marcus as a violent man with dangerous connections. He suggested the evidence was circumstantial. And when Ava took the stand, he turned the heat up even further. But Ava didn't flinch. She stood, calm and deliberate, recounting the moment she realized everything she'd believed was a lie. She spoke of nights filled with doubt. The sleepless hours she spent replaying every conversation with Renata. The day she understood she'd been abandoned not only by a friend, but by the one person she trusted most. Her testimony was raw, powerful, and believable. Public sentiment shifted again. Once vilified, Ava became a symbol of how love and trust could be weaponized. The final moments of the trial were tense. In his closing argument, Prosecutor Jennings reminded the jury that killers don't always hold the weapon. Sometimes, they operate through control, suggestion, silence. Wallace Kerr pushed back, saying there was no concrete proof tying Renata to the trigger, only a tangle of assumptions and broken hearts. The jury deliberated for 3 long days. Then, on a rainy morning in October, the verdict was read. Guilty. On all counts. Renata Miles was sentenced to 27 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 18. She showed no emotion as the sentence was read, only an icy glance in the direction of Thomas Callahan, who sat in the back of the courtroom. He didn't look back. Ava wasn't in the courtroom that day. She issued a single statement through her attorney. She said she didn't rejoice in Renata's punishment. She only wanted the truth to come out, and to finally, quietly, begin again. She filed for divorce. Moved to Oregon. Changed her last name. Thomas disappeared from the public eye. And Renata? She now resides in a women's correctional facility outside Spokane. Her social media empire, gone. Her podcast, scrubbed. Her brand, a cautionary tale. But the legacy of what happened. Of how deeply someone can be manipulated in the name of love, loyalty, and control, continues to haunt the minds of those who followed every twist and turn. And for Ava Callahan, the woman once branded a killer, justice may have come at a heavy price. But it came, all the same. In the weeks following the verdict, the dust began to settle, but the echoes of the trial remained, a persistent reminder of how easily a life can fracture under the weight of secrets and misplaced trust. For Ava Callahan, freedom didn't come wrapped in celebration or closure. It came quietly, and at a cost. The woman who had once defined herself through others, through her devotion to Thomas, her friendship with Renata, and her loyalty to a curated life, was now left alone, stripped of the roles that had once given her identity. But what remained, perhaps for the first time, was Ava herself. She didn't return to Spokane. Too many ghosts lingered there. Instead, she relocated to a small coastal town in Oregon, where anonymity was easier to find and peace, though not immediate, seemed possible. She cut her hair, deleted her old social accounts, and started work at a local florist shop. There, between the scent of fresh blooms and the quiet rhythm of daily life, Ava began the slow, deliberate process of rediscovery. The media tried to follow her. Reporters sent letters, podcasters showed up at her doorstep. She refused every interview. She didn't want to be a sensation. She didn't want to be a brand. She just wanted to heal. But the internet has a long memory. Clips of her trial testimony still circulate. Documentaries have used her name. Conspiracy theorists claim there's more to the story. That Ava knew more. That perhaps she was more involved than anyone would admit. But Ava never responded to those voices. Silence, for her, was the final word. Thomas Callahan retreated into privacy as well. The handsome architect whose world had unraveled now lives in Denver, reportedly working under a different name at a small design firm. His marriage was officially dissolved 6 months after the verdict. He issued no public comment. Only once was he spotted, standing outside the courtroom, after Renata's sentencing, staring into the distance, not speaking to anyone. Some said he looked broken. Others said he looked free. As for Renata Miles, She began her sentence in a medium-security women's prison just outside Yakima. Even behind bars, she tried to maintain a version of control. In her first year, she reportedly started a writing group and offered spiritual counseling to fellow inmates. But the allure of influence didn't hold. In time, she became just another number in the system. Her empire was gone. Her name, once synonymous with wellness and empowerment, now conjured betrayal and manipulation. But perhaps the most tragic shadow hung over Marcus Brody. His name was often lost amid the headlines of scandal and courtroom drama. To the world, he was the victim. But to those who knew him, he was more. A loving father. A loyal friend. A man whose only mistake was knowing too much, and trusting the wrong person to keep that knowledge safe. His mother, Gloria Brody, became an outspoken advocate for emotional abuse awareness. She spoke at college campuses and small community centers, warning young people about the subtle signs of psychological control. Not all abusers hit, she once said. Some just lie, and manipulate, until they break you from the inside out. In the end, the story of Ava Callahan and Renata Miles wasn't just about murder. It was about how power can be disguised as friendship. How charisma can cloak cruelty. And how, sometimes, the greatest crimes happen not with weapons, but with words. Ava now lives quietly. She tends flowers. She writes in journals she never shows anyone. Some days are still hard. Triggers come unexpectedly, a perfume, a stranger's voice, a song on the radio. But she is still here. Still standing. Still trying. In her own way, she's rebuilding. Not the life she had before, but something simpler. Something real. And perhaps that, above all, is the most unexpected ending of all, not revenge. Not vindication. But survival. Because sometimes, surviving the truth is the bravest thing a person can do. If you found this story gripping, don't forget to subscribe for more chilling true crime tales. Like the video to show your support, and share it with others who can't look away from the dark twists of human nature. Your support helps us keep uncovering the stories that haunt the shadows.